We're good? All right, hello Arty peoples! Welcome to another episode of Jerry's Live. My name is Emmy Klein and I'm your host this evening. So for today, I have a really fun class planned. I hope you guys enjoy portrait painting. It's one of those things that I absolutely love. It's kind of my joy, my little corner of the art world that I will go to every time I can. So if you are interested in following along or checking out the art supplies that I'm going to be using throughout the show, make sure to go to the website jerrysartorama.com and type in today's class code. Now that is JL318, which should be down here in the corner, and it should stay up all throughout the class if you want to reference it later. But JL318, if you type that in the search bar, the teacher's cart should pop up, and then you should be able to check out everything there. So let's jump into portrait painting. Now, this originally came about because, I can't believe I can say this, last year, which is not that long ago, really, we had this set of oil paints, which is by Charvin. It is their Snow Landscapes set of 9. I had this in the teacher's cart. We were talking about it in our kind of gift guide show where we were talking about, you know, fun things to get people who are artists that maybe they don't have this. And I specifically pulled this out because I really wanted to play with it. I love this set of colors. It is so unique as far as the like combination that's in there, and it's a vibe. It's a mood, and I am here for it. It makes me happy. So that is exactly what we're going to be using today. Now, I am going to be painting an old fisherman. Or I assume he's an old fisherman. He looks like an old fisherman. If he's not an old fisherman, I'm sorry. But, I mean, he's got a fisherman hat with a little fisherman. You know, like the little things that the fly fishing, the feathers and stuff? It's in his hat. You'll see it. So that reference is from a royalty-free website. If you are looking for photography of people's faces that you want to actually paint, best practice is to just go to a royalty-free website. You can pull up a bunch of them if you just Google search royalty-free images. That will bring up a couple different ones. I believe this one specifically came off of Pixabay. I know my amazing moderators, Amanda and Frida, are going to pop them in the chats if you guys want to check out the reference image that I'm using tonight. So that's my reference image. You guys got the link for that. I specifically wanted to get a reference image, though, that was in black and white, and I was looking for strong shadows. And the reason why is because when you're painting portraiture, there's a lot of times where your image of the face is going to be lit straight on, and that is probably one of the most difficult things to paint. I actually taught a class on this, and I was giving examples of portraits that you would like to paint, the ones that have the cast shadows that go across the nose, and you have some definition of the face, like not just the eyes and the nose and the mouth, but like the space in between, like your cheeks and your forehead. There's a lot of information that goes on there that is usually glazed over. It's really hard for people to kind of focus on that because they're like, oh, I gotta put the eyes in the right spot. There's a lot more information happening right here than you actually just think of when you're starting out. So if you really take the time and look on those little spots, you can really find a lot of information, and shadows help you see that. Now, what's funny is when I was teaching that class, I had a couple of images of things that you don't want to paint, and I had a student try and paint one of those, and she hated it. She absolutely hated it, and I was like, well, I hate to say I told you so, but look for shadows in your reference images. It's really going to help you, especially when you're just starting off. So I have my landscapes. This is for snow landscapes, by the way. So the colors really lend well for that, but I just love it for portraiture. But it's a very limited palette. So let's actually talk about the colors. We should go up to the overhead here. So because I have this little beautiful swatch kind of mixing guide here that I made. And this, by the way, is on linen. This is how I like to use my linen canvas pads. It just comes in these little sheets like that. That's actually my go-to every time I grab for like a little mixing sheet or something like that. This is just, it's really easy to paint on, and I can cut it to size. But, so this is all the different colors that come in the set. And I'm going to go over them for you guys. So we have in the corner, it's really hard to see because it's white on white, but it's titanium white. Right next to it is a little bit of a warmer white. It's a zinc white. Now, that's kind of important with your color mixing, because if you actually look across here, because this is how a mixing guide kind of works, is that if I wanted to mix titanium white with this kind of orangey color, that's what that color comes out to be. And so like you can kind of grid it out that way to where you now know what your colors are going to mix to be. So with that zinc white and the titanium white, if you just kind of follow along the mixes all the way down, you can see that the zinc white is slightly less chalky. The reason why is because it has a slight transparency to it, so that's going to make your colors tone down in value but not be super chalky. And then we have the kind of blue, that's the opaline gray. I'm trying to remember, sorry. Opaline gray and ash blue. That's the two colors. I love these. They are, again, subtly different. This has a little less saturation to it, that opaline gray, and the ash blue is a little bit more punchy. Now, I'm actually not going to be using all of these colors because they were a little similar. I am going to actually leave out the opaline gray, but this is just, whenever you get these sets, it's a really fun way of kind of exploring colors and seeing what maybe can work for you as an artist and not be stuck with such a rigid, like, this is my color set. This'll throw a wrench in your art practice, so it'll make you really actually think about color theory and temperature and value. But then for the next couple colors, we have one of my favorites, actually. This is the linen gray, which is not exactly what I would think of when I say linen gray. I don't know why I think it should be more gray, but it's like a nice, like, desaturated pink. It's really fun. And this right here is the yellow ochre transparent, which is a nice orangey color. And you'll see in one of my examples later on that actually gives you, actually here you go, when you mix it with that the linen gray, it gives you a nice peachy kind of color, which is wonderful for skin tones. And it kind of gives that life to like the cheek area and the nose, and that's going to be what I'm looking for there. Then we have the Charvin Warm Gray, which I'm actually not going to be using today. It is a lovely color. I know, I'm sorry, Katie, this is like, she loves her grayish, but it's just, with the vibe that I'm going for, it just isn't quite what I'm looking for. Now, I could include that and remove the blues out of there entirely, and it would change the feel of my painting entirely. That's what I love about these little sets, is because it gets you to explore. Now, the last two are my darker colors. I have Sepia, which again, I'm not using this today. I do love it, but it is kind of a really desaturated, here's it mixed with white. It's a really desaturated brown kind of tone, but I do love that the mask tone is really dark, but the end I have a gray shade. And this is kind of what I was looking for. I want that dark mask tone, and then I want it to be more on the blue kind of neutral side of it, because what I'm looking for this specific portrait, what I'm looking to do is kind of do more of a blue, almost monochromatic, desaturated painting, and then pop in these pinks and the orange just in the cheeks and kind of bring that life. And then also I can keep my warm colors kind of in the light, where the light's coming across his face. If I keep the warmer colors there and keep the cool colors in my shadow, then that will give you that sense of shadow and light coming through, because as you guys know, your light comes down and it warms up those values. And the reason why is because usually we're looking at sunshine, and sunshine is a warm color, so it's going to have that warm kind of tone to it. And that's why usually, I will say this, usually your lights are going to be warmer. There is, you know, cool lights out there nowadays, especially with like LEDs and fluorescence, that will give you a cooler kind of tone where it's kind of more in that like blue realm, but it's not what I'm looking for. So that's the colors. Now in this mixing guide, if you look at this, and I didn't realize that until I started playing with these colors, a lot of these values are kind of in the mid to high side of my values. I have just a couple of dark values down here. Now, the way that you can really see that is if you take a photo of your swatching mixing sheet and throw it into black and white. Now we have an example here that Katie's gonna pop on the screen for us. There you go. So if you actually look at this side by side, you can see that all of this is really light or mid-tones. I only have a very few dark tones down here. So this specific set is not what I would recommend for if you're trying to paint darker skin tones. This would be great for a lighter skin tone portrait, but you're going to be it's not impossible to do, but you would be burning through these two colors quite a lot in order to make all of those dark tones that you're really going to be wanting to look for. And then you're also only limited to, the sepia is your warmer brown or your warmer dark tone, and that neutral gray is your cooler dark tone. So what I'm actually going to do is throw in one more color. This is blue shade. And if you guys take a look at this, this is what I was kind of doing when I was trying to figure out how to shift, ignore my blob of paint that came down here. I was trying to shift it to where I could have darker tones that would work with the portrait that I was looking for. In the realm of like, it's cool, but like this in relativity to the rest of my colors is a bit warmer because it has that yellow transparent, the yellow ochre transparent. It's hard to get all the words strung together. So it's all in relation as far as cool and warm is concerned, because it's going to shift depending on what they're next to. So this is me throwing in dark blues, and I was just trying to mix them with a couple of the colors here just to see what they would do. So I have a Payne's gray, an indigo, and that's that blue shadow, and I really liked how this kind of looked personally, so this is the realm that I wanted to stick in. I thought this was a little bit too saturated for me, but it's really fun, and this is just playing with color, really. So we are going to toss those off to the side and get started, because we need to get started on this painting. So I'm going to be using the titanium white. I'm going to pull this down a little bit here. Might have to shift this. There we go, so you guys can see what I'm mixing. I'm going to use my titanium white. I have that zinc white in case I need a nice vibrant kind of color without having it look chalky. Then I have my linen gray, that yellow ochre transparent. This is the, not opaline, ash blue. That's ash blue. That's my blue shadow. And this is my neutral gray. Now, I have 3 brushes that I'm going to be working with. They're all flat, because I do love me a flat or filbert brush. But I went flat today, and I'm going to start off with my biggest one. The reason why is because I have not sketched anything on my panel here. And this, by the way, is the brand new New York Central Portrait Smooth panel. This has really, really nice, I believe this is cotton canvas on it, but what I really love about it also is the fact that it's a little bit thicker on the density here. So it feels really, really sturdy, but it's really nice and smooth. So that is the panel I'm going to be using. And I also have my Studio Solve over here, because I am going to need to break down my first couple swipes of paint. And I'm going to stick with that neutral gray. Just get a little bit here on my brush, and I'm breaking it down with the solvent. And I'm going to start blocking in where this is going really loosely. This is going to be the ugly stage of my painting. Please don't judge, but you have to paint through the ugly. So, and hopefully this is laying flat to me, so there's a little bit of distortion, so I might keep looking up at the camera so I can see it straight on. But let me also not have my image distorted here. So put the top of his hat kind of here, maybe the side of it goes down here. And like if I have the brim of the hat that comes down here, there's a side of that, real loose, right? And then his hair, that's his lapel. Lapel? Is that the right word? Not important. The top of his jacket there. And then his beard. And actually, one thing with people wearing hats, you really want to make sure that you follow that line of the hat back down to his face. it goes a little bit further on this side, because if I have the corner of his face starting over here, it doesn't look like he's wearing the hat. So if that's the side of my hat, then the side of his face should be here, right? And then there's this crazy hair sticking out every which way. I'm just making little notations. There's the end of his beard. Goes sort of up that way, right? That's the side of his face. There's maybe the nasal folds. His nose is sort of there, so that goes up. He's got some crazy eyebrows I do love. And then side of his face is also, when I say the side of his face, I'm talking where his hair meets actual skin. So it's kind of sort of there. And eyes somewhere in this realm too. It's all in shadow, so like, this is real loose, right? That's what you're looking for. And then his mouth, you can't actually see much of anything because it's all covered by hair. I really do, when you're just starting out and painting portraiture, I really do love painting people with facial hair, like beards, because first of all, it's kind of like cheating because most of their face is hidden. But let's keep going. So if we do have any questions though on the process, feel free to pop it in the chats. Do we have any on this so far? Kind of cool this down as well, because I do want to block in a little bit of this background, just so I'm not working on like a stark white canvas. And I'm also sort of fixing my drawing as I'm going, so it's hard to tell, but I can see the difference between that's blue and that's that neutral gray. So in my mind, that's a difference enough to where I know what I'm doing, even though it looks super similar. And this actually comes down a little bit further. So I am constantly shifting back and forth between what I'm painting and what I'm actually looking at, because you'd be surprised at how much information you can really tell when you're looking at just the negative shapes, kind of the angles of the hat, the angles of how things connect, the space in between. Like this right here is where I drew kind of the top of his hat. That's way too high. It's actually more sort of down here. That's okay, I'll fix it. This is the very first stage. It can be nice and loosey-goosey. So,
while you're doing that, we do have a quick question.
What you got?
Martina would like to know what royalty-free means.
Royalty-free means that whoever took the photo that you are working off of does not mind if you use it for your own artistic practice. Clearly, you can't say you took that photo. That's not how that works. So if I take this photo and work from it like I am, whoever took this actual photo owns the rights to that photo. When it's royalty free, that means they're giving me permission to use this for my own art, and they don't care if I sell this and make money off of it or anything like that, because technically this is his art, his or her art, I don't know who it is. So this is their artwork. This is, I mean, it's photography, it's a form of art that's theirs. And so when they give it to you royalty free, it's that permission. Because if you use an image that doesn't belong to you, like an image of a celebrity that is taken by somebody else, that is their artwork. If they did not give you permission of it and you are now selling artwork that is based off of that image, you can get into some legal trouble. We don't want that, so we're just going to skip that aspect of it. So, all right. Now, while I have this blue shadow kind of gray mixture together on my palette, this whole section of his face is in shadow. There's a little chunk of his cheek that is kind of in light, as well as his nose on this one side, and then that cheek. I'm just specifically talking about the skin tone. So with that being the case, I'm just gonna kind of chunk the whole section into shadow. And I'm looking at that shape that the shadow is making, where it drags across his face, goes up for the nose, and kind of rounds off for that bridge of his nose. That's kind of the idea of what I'm following. Right? Now, his nose is mostly in light on that one side, so I do want to kind of leave that. Then that cheek, like I said, is mostly in shadow. There's just a little bit. And then there is, on this side of his face, it looks like it's coming back into light. Oh, sorry. Turn it back in. Looks like it's coming back into light, but if you look at it, it's actually still in shadow, but it has that reflective light coming in. So it gives you that idea of there's lighter values, but it's still in the shadow chunk of his face. So that's why I have that, I keep wanting to call it opaline gray. For the love of Pete, it's ash blue. Ash blue, which is actually very similar to my table color. Fun fact. I'm going to take that and I'm going to tone down my value and make it lighter, which also, are we being able to see my mixes here very clearly?
I'd like to also see the reference photo a little bit when you have it put down, so you can squish some stuff over a little.
Do you want to see more of my palette or more of the image? I can try to have it be both. Here, how about this? Does that work? I can do my best.
There you go.
We scooch. There we go. Now, the idea of me painting an image, I'm not trying to copy it exactly. I am just trying to get kind of the idea, the feel of what's going on. Because I can paint this image a million times and it'll always have a different feel, which I have, and I'll show you. So this is the first time I painted it, and this is using every color in this palette. There's a lot of the neutral gray. This is before I added that shadow blue as well. So there's a lot of the neutral gray to keep those dark tones that are still in the like sort of cooler side of it, but I still didn't like that it wasn't cool enough, which is why I wanted to add that dark blue. And then I had all these fun little like pinks and that transparent yellow ochre come in to kind of warm up the face, have it be in light, and it's still got that kind of warmth to the face. Now, this is after I added the blue shadow. Same painting day. I painted this in the same day. Very different feel. I'm not, again, not trying to make it exact to the image, but it still has the vibe, the idea of it. So that's what I'm kind of more going for, is that like the cool tones kind of, this is what I mean, the cool tones being in the shadows and then those warm tones coming through and making it look like it's in sunshine. So, bridge of his nose. Now I'm also going to just kind of, this is why I use a big brush. I have to remember to keep this really general, because I will try my best to noodle with the corners of these brushes, and I have to stop because that's not what the stage of the painting is in right now, and I am the worst at that. So
what brush are you using?
This is the size 22 flat for the Hamburg Premier. The Hamburg Premier, I believe, is like a mixed bristle, so it is really soft, but it still has enough snap to it to move around my oil paints in the way that I personally like. So that's why I like these. Let me drag this rim of the hat down. Kind of indicate this crazy hair, right? Okay, so I'm going to just quickly block in just a couple shadows, because like if you're looking at the reference here where the bags of his eyes come in, that is in shadow. like I just kind of indicated there. But it's not as dark of a shadow as what's over here. So I'm gonna actually take my big brush and put it over to the side on something so I don't get it all over the place. And now I'm moving to a 16 flat because I do know as far as the big general chunks of the shadows are concerned, that's where I want it to be. And now I'm gonna use less and less solvent and get my dark shadows kind of going as far as like indicating where things are. Because like his eyebrows right here are real dark. And with oil painting, as I'm sure you guys know, or if you don't know, you want to go from dark to light. That's why I haven't touched the white paint. You really don't want to do that. It is harder to go the other way around. It's not impossible, but harder. So if you're not trying to fight with your paint, don't do that. Now, I do feel, this is going to be an alla prima painting, I do feel like I might have had a little bit too much solvent on there, on that first little stage, and I probably should have just gone more paint and been able to wipe it out, but I can still wipe it off, but I'm going to kind of work with what I got here. So you see how I'm starting to, I'm sorry if there's a bit of a glare. No, you can see it. I'm starting to pop in those really, really dark values now that I kind of have an idea of where everything is. Right? And move this around. There's the rim of his hat. And over here is in a lot of shadow. I think it goes, I'm going to end up making it go off the page, I guess, a little bit because it feels like it should be further out. Right? And then his crazy little fly fishing thing that's kind of over here, right? Just going to indicate something is there. I'm not a fisherman. I don't know what it is. Can you tell? All right, so kind of cool, pull the value down with that ash blue again. But I am, again, using less solvent just to kind of indicate where things are. And I actually just realized, let me use this smaller brush that I have here just because I know it's not got that blue on there. His eyebrow kind of comes down a little further. Sort of. Right? Yeah, something like that. So here, let me also, while I'm at it, his eyebrow kind of does a slant and then it comes out. We're just going to indicate that an eye is there. I also want to indicate that this is in shadow as well. And just with a little bit of information like that, you have an eye. It's not like a pristine eye, but you can see that there's an eye there. Right? And I'm going to do the same for this side because I know we're going to be running out of time. Because normally I wouldn't try and pop these little details in this quick, but I don't want us to run out of time and let's not have a face. Now, if I'm looking at his eye that I just painted, right? I'm looking at the space in between. It's typically the same width of his eye is the same width here. Now, that's not always the case. Everybody has a different kind of face. Sometimes that rule is broken, but typically speaking, that is about what happens. But I am looking also at the angle, like if I'm drawing a line straight through, I'm looking at the angle of that line and trying to match it here to where I can make sure that his other eye goes in the right spot. All right, there we go. Pop that over there. All right, now we can pop these lighter tones in a little bit. This like wrinkly kind of bridge of his nose. Now that I'm painting it, I'm realizing that that shadow is way farther down than I realized, which is okay. Again, I'm still in that beginning stage. I can correct that. So, a little bit of light coming in there. His eyebrow, or the, I'm sorry, not eyebrow, the eyelids, for the love of everything. Holy, I could not remember that word. Whew! Sorry.
I was gonna try to help, but I didn't know where you were going either.
I wanted to say eye folds, but I was like, that is wrong. I knew that was going to bring out the Amanda, no! I swear I know anatomy. Alright, so, and this kind of goes up to the side of his face, which goes up that way, and comes back down, and then it kind of recedes into all of the hair that's going on there, right? So, we're getting a sense of like his eyes are there, and it's in shadow, and now I'm going to also do a little bit of his hair as well, because it's also still in shadow, but his hair is like a stark white compared to his skin tone, so I'm going to have to make sure that that value of that blue is not the same as his skin tone, otherwise it's the same value and it looks funny at the end. So that's where I'm going to start bringing in a little bit of this titanium white just to lighten the value again. Alright, because as long as I keep it in the cool area, then it's going to still look like it's in shadow. I need to indicate his little eyelids again, because that's still a little bit lighter value. Alright. And I'm just going to pop a little bit of that blue just on the edge of his nose that should be in shadow, because it's not a very dark value, but it is not in light. Same thing with the side of his little like cheek right here. It does turn into shadow. Okay. Now we need to address the light areas of his face. And we're going to do essentially the same thing, but I'm going to do the same thing with pink kind of involved. That linen gray. So as you know, when you mix like a blue and red, it makes a purple. Well, linen gray is like a really, really light kind of pink, so that's kind of in the red genre. And then all these blues that I'm working with, it's making like a really pretty kind of Amanda color lilac, which is hard to tell. It's hard to see. There you go. So that's an Amanda color. And then I'm going to bring this in here. Now you'd appreciate that.
What are you talking about? I hate that color.
Everything Amanda owns is lilac, let's be honest. No shade though, she do love. Alright, so I'm going to pop that in so that makes it look like it's in light. See that, like where the light's kind of coming across just a little bit.
I have a question.
Yes.
From YouTube. As a beginner, would you recommend spending more time measuring out the facial features before applying paint? Their fear is his eye would end up where his nose should be.
So as a beginner, I would recommend you do a monochromatic painting, like a black and white, specifically to get those proportions and understand kind of how the paint moves, and then slowly start integrating colors into your painting. So like this right here being a very limited palette is difficult. That's why I'm trying to really focus on that color temperature, and that's a more advanced type of a thing. Whereas like if you are a very beginner in portraiture, you're not going to want to jump straight into that. That's a lot to deal with all at once. So if you do a grisaille painting where it's black and white, you can do glazing over top of it and start adding in the colors at a later stage. We do actually have an entire show on that if you guys would be interested in doing a grisaille painting and then jumping into color and doing the glazing. We actually had a show that went over the whole process, so I would recommend starting there. So yes, I would recommend working on your proportions, and even if it's not in oil painting, if it's in drawing, like charcoal or pencil, really work on your drawing skills, because that will translate into painting quite easily. But if you don't have the drawing skills, you're gonna struggle with proportions. So I was lucky enough to have an education where we were forced to draw and draw and draw and draw and draw, and it comes across in the end. I hope, really hope so. But it definitely helps you not struggle with the drawing so much, I will say.
Thanks.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to men and their mustaches, there is hair that grows darn near up to the nostril. Sometimes I feel like they connect, the nose hairs and the mustache connects, especially when you get into the older realm of the age range. Okay, sorry, Katie. But no matter if you have a nostril hair, mustache situation going on, not the whole lip, upper lip, has hair on it. Right here, where the corner of the nose folds down and you get your nostril, and then right there where that fold is where you know, like the smile lines of your, you know, getting that like little cheek fold. Right here in there, that little section is a section of skin that usually has no hair on it. So if you ever see paintings of people with mustaches and it just fills that whole section, it feels weird. That's why you should see a little bit of skin still coming through. Now, granted, I have to get a little bit more blue on this brush because I realized I did not paint it in over here. Also, I didn't paint his nostril on the side, so looks a little bizarre. There we go. Right. Okay. Now, I want to warm the cheeks up a little bit more, and I'm getting that transparent yellow ochre. I want to call it a yellow oxide. It's not a yellow oxide. Transparent yellow ochre. So when I mix that in here, yes, I still have blue on my brush. I have not at all cleaned this. If you are a beginner, another good another good trick is to have sets of brushes, like 2 sets of brushes. Keep your cool colors on one set and your warm colors on another set. That's if you are starting to integrate color into your work, because if you start doing this and getting muddy colors, that's because your cool colors are mixing with your warm colors, and now you're getting them both together on one brush. Now, I happen to want that. That is intentional for me. If you don't, that's where you might run into some issues. So when I start mixing in that yellow oxide, though, it's going to, because it's got a deeper mass tone, so it's going to kind of make it look like it's a little darker compared to like the pinks. So all these little areas where there's shadows on his face that are in the light, this is where I can start popping those in. Now, right here where that had that shadow that kind of came in, and I had it be a nice blue color, I'm mixing it in with this to where it's getting a little bit more of that orangey pink and kind of having a bit of a transition, but it's not fully mixed still. All right. Tip of his nose, and then I'm gonna have that go over here, because as his nose is going around, and going from the light side to the shadow side. I want this to kind of darken in value. It's still in light, but it's darker in value. Actually, I'm just going to throw this whole cheek right here. Yeah. And now I am going to cool that orange down a bit more with a little bit more blue to where now it's like a gray. Hopefully you can see that. It's mud. I full on made mud. It's beautiful mud, but I wanted it to be a little bit warm, but still in that cool realm. And again, it's all relative to what you're putting down. But the reason why is because I wanted to keep his cheeks warmer, but still look like they're in shadow. And that's kind of the way that I do that, which is the same kind of idea that I'm doing there. Look at my hair. So that way it looks a little bit warmer, because if you were to do this entire portrait in just blue, he's gonna look a little bit like a zombie. Reason why is because that warm color brings a little bit of life to our face. So makes you look alive. Do we have any questions as I'm going?
I think we're just enjoying the
the ramblings while I paint. It's okay.
Rest assured, we'll let you know.
That's true. All right, so I do need to address the hair all over his face. So I'm going to actually clean my brush on this one because I do want to get some lighter values. Actually, no, I take that back. I am going to grab some titanium white and go straight into that muddy color that I had. Take it back. And make a lighter version of mud and address these little wisps of hair that are kind of over here. Now I am just working my brush in the direction of what his hair is doing. Not really paying attention to each individual strand. Ain't nobody got time for that. Alright, I do need a little bit lighter because as I'm making a brush stroke and coming back over here and grabbing more paint, I'm now mixing whatever paint I picked up because it is still that solvent, so I am picking up that darker paint. As I'm coming back over here, it's making my kind of puddle of paint over here darker. So I have to continuously be aware of the value of my pile of paint here because it is shifting. It's ever so slight, but if it gets too dark, that would not be ideal. This makes me want to go, I don't know, kind of like fishing or like to the docks and hear some stories. Like I feel like this man has some stories. Is it just me?
For sure.
Oh yeah. So when I did make my mud, because it is technically mud, it is kind of in that more neutral section of, because orangey tone of my paint. With the blue, when you put opposite on the color wheel together, they tend to make a brown or a gray kind of neutrally color. So it did turn out almost like a neutral gray, and I don't hate that. So I feel like that's a really great beard color, especially for like the little shadow areas. And again, remember, you can always go lighter with your paints. It's harder to go darker. So the really dark sections I am going to leave, but I do want to pop in this color where I can because I think it's quite lovely. Now, I know there's not a whole lot of paint right here, so what I'm doing is this is why I love a flat brush or a filbert, same thing. I move my brush back and forth like this where I'm dragging it side by side and I'm making a really sharp edge. And then I know this is gonna kind of hurt some people. I push it, it's not really like difficult push, but I push it forward in my paint and I'm actually loading that up. And it's so light of a push that I'm still not losing that sharp edge, but do you see how much paint I just gathered? That's my go-to when I know I have not put enough paint on my palette. Because I tend to mix my colors as I go. I don't like pre-mixing them. I think it looks a little too staticky and like mechanical when you have very pre-mixed colors. So when I do this and I have those slight shifts in my color, I feel like it gives it a little bit more life. Personally, maybe it's just me. But I think it looks better. And now I think I'm gonna actually grab the pink, because I know Amanda did love the pink in the beard. It's a good vibe. And then I'm going to pop that in where the light's hitting. He's gonna have a pink beard. You see how I did swipe down here and I went to go do another swipe and I noticed that I picked up a lot of that dark color. Actually, if you go to the side camera, you can really see it. I feel like it's a little far away right now. There we go. All right, so I did this brush stroke down here, picked up dark right here, and then went to go brush it again. And that's why I have that really dark. That's when I am indicated that I need to go back to my little puddle here if it's not what I wanted. So then I can kind of just brush it out and fluff it to where it never happened. All right. So I know this area of his beard is real bright. And I'm going to address that at the very end with like a pure white. See, I just did it again, but this is kind of at the end of his beard, so I'm going to kind of fluff that in and not get more paint on my brush. Now, I do know right here it's a little bit darker, so I want to get that smaller brush of mine. And kind of block that in before it gets too covered in the light color. Now, I don't want it to be that blue. I want it to be a little bit warmer, so I'm going to mix in a little bit of that orange. That orange. It's transparent yellow ochre, I should say. And there's not a specific stopping part for his mouth. Maybe indicate that there's a lip in there somewhere, but don't have to. I'm also going to, this is a really gross color to come down from his nose, but it feels like the right value and the right kind of temperature where it's a little bit warmer. Plus it's in other places on his face, so it's not super weird to have like a funky brown coming down from his nose. Alright, now I do need to kind of indicate a little bit of a divide right here. I can notice that like it's kind of all being lost in the same value, and that information is kind of confusing because I haven't really given you enough information to make you understand what's going on in there. And because right here where I just put that brush stroke down, this is in shadow again, so I need to cool my paint down as far as the temperature is concerned. And I need to grab a little bit of that blue shadow still. And I just want to indicate what's going on here. His cheek kind of comes out and then it's straight into hair. Now I am going to grab a lot more paint with also that neutral gray. So I don't want it to be like super blue shadow. I want it a little bit more neutral now. And I'm popping in those really dark darks with a lot of paint. There's I just loaded my paintbrush up. Because I noticed as I'm painting here, there are some spaces on his face that have a lot of darks, like really, really dark darks, and it's usually in your nostrils. Right here where his nose curls around to his nostril there, that gets really dark as well. And then it goes down, and it's not as dark as we go down, but it's still pretty dark in the value. And I just need to indicate that, otherwise that information is also confusing. There we go. And I think I'm just going to indicate a couple more wrinkles right here with a small brush while I'm at it, because I think they got a little lost when I was messing with the temperature. It's also, I have a bit of a glare on it because of the lights here. So okay, we don't have the picture in a picture because I was like, I am leaning over really funny and I don't know if you guys can see that. So I'm trying to just get the glare off my painting, and this is just the nature of painting on camera for you guys. Okay, so this comes down. I need to indicate that that's the bags under his eyes. All right. Why is that so light? There we go. Eyebrow, and then it gets dark up here again. All right, and then I'm going to add a little bit of that zinc white to this mix that I got going on here. And I'm going to hit the side of his hat. Honestly, I'm just going to fill in the whole hat, and then I'm going to change the value on that one side. I'm going to get a little bit of Studio Solve here, just so I can thin it down, because I haven't actually put any paint over there. So if I do this...
Elaine said she likes your painting better than the original photo.
Thank you.
And I
told you,
I agreed, and that it feels like it gives him so much emotion.
He's a vibe. He's just he's a moody man looking to fish.
Aren't they all?
Aren't they all? Yeah, listen, that's okay. I'm a moody lady looking to paint, so we all got our things. All right, so I'm just going to cover in the hat. And just to remove that whiteness that was going on, the canvas that I had not painted yet. Now I'm going to shift that color temperature with that orange. Again, I keep calling it an orange because it's orangey compared to everything else. Yellow, ochre, transparent. Just a long name. And I'm going to indicate the light that's coming in with this. I didn't shift the temperature, or I shifted the temperature but not the value. So it's still got a dark value of the hat. Now it just looks like a lumpy old fishing hat. There we go. That's where the light's coming in. And then I'm going to also shift the value where the light is really hitting it as well, because this is more in light as well. And then I'm going to leave the rest of that in shadow, but I am going to shift that value just a little bit here. Normally I do this in a little bit more gradual stages and really pay attention to that color temperature and then the value as well, because like with the blue I might have more darks and then kind of areas where that blue shifts in values, whereas I just laid down one big tone. But I'm sure we're running out of time. So, how are we doing on time? Whew! We are running out of time. See, I could paint portraits all day though. I just know the whole team would like to leave at some point in time, so. Alright, so. Let me just indicate that that light hits and then wraps around. Now I'm not going up to the area that I was just painting in over here, because I want that dark line that I left that's in dark blue, I want that to stay right where it is, because it really helps indicate that that hat has a seam. All right, and then put a little bit more pink on there. I'm gonna just do a little highlight, and that's me using the edge of my brush, because it is a flat, back and forth in like little brush strokes, to where I am indicating that there is some kind of a texture on there, but not actually drawing every single little line, because no. Again, I just want the impression of what's going on. I don't want to photocopy this, you know? For me, I'm a painter. I want it to look like a painting. All right, so I think, yeah, I need to address this facial hair, and then I think we're about done. Now, I really hope everyone has a chance to paint a fun painting of a fisherman. It is a blast. Like, I love painting older people that have, you know, wrinkles and crazy facial hair, and I don't know, it just brings me so much joy. Although I'm the weirdo that I would rather paint somebody who is older rather than like the prettiest person in the world. Is that weird? I feel like that might be weird. I don't know. I think the face is more interesting.
You like the texture.
Yeah.
We've talked about that before.
Yeah. Alright, so.
Pretty is boring.
Well, that, like, it's everywhere, you know?
Also, you like a challenge.
I feel like it's actually less challenging, though. Because pretty tends to be very symmetrical and very,
That's
like,
very true.
it has to be well, though that's a different challenge. It's very perfect and, like, needs to be just so, and according to the magazines anyway. Alright, so I'm just going to put a couple highlights on his facial hair. And remember, the hair definitely goes over the lips, so you have to kind of drag it down a little bit. Okay. Now, this definitely gets lighter, but it's not bright white. So I'm going to kind of mix it in with the canvas as I go. And I need that to go over just a little bit. Alright. Like I said, this is all in a lot of highlights, so I'm just going to slap on some paint. Like, again, I'm loading my brush up, and then I'm just kind of dragging it through. It's going to be a very textured painting right in that general region. Now, I did give him a lot of highlights on his beard, but he definitely still needs highlights on his nose. And just a little sparkle right there. Maybe right there too. Alright, how are we doing? Ooh, hold on. I got one last thing. I'm looking at the time, I'm like, I think I can do this. We're just gonna slap in a little bit of dark down here just to anchor him down, because that's, you know, he does have a dark, I'm guessing this is a pea coat. It looks like a pea coat. Doesn't even have to give you any kind of information. It just needs to be dark, because I feel like information doesn't need to be there. There's enough information in his face. But I do want to just solidify that kind of weighted feeling, so it doesn't feel like a head that's just going to float right off, you know? Now, because it is a beard, it gets wispy around the edges. There we go. And then one last little indication. Whoop. It's mixing in. Take it back. I do want that just to pop out just a little bit. But because I did that, I had to put it in 2 other spots. Okay, I think that's about done. Look at that old guy. He's ready to tell you life stories, I feel like, right? So, I mean, again, it's just, it's always going to be a slightly different painting. Granted, I took a little bit more time to resolve this, but it's just, it's fun to kind of play around with a new palette that you've not played around with, especially if you're in an artistic block or you're just not sure what kind of color schemes you want to go with when it comes to your work. This is a really fun way to experiment. And I will say, Charmin actually has, besides this, which again, it is specifically for snow landscapes, but I just really wanted to paint portraiture with this, and I really love it. And again, for darker skin tones, I might even add like a darker red, just to kind of help play with like the jewel tones that you'll see in more of the darker skin tones, like the dark reds, dark purples, especially with that blue shadow. That would be beautiful. But even playing with something like this, where it has such a limited, you know, color for you to actually mess around with, it's something that would open your eyes to what you need as an artist and what you're looking for and what's going to work for you, and pushing you to kind of open up those boundaries that we do tend to get boundaries, especially from school or people that are teaching us the rules. This is a way to kind of break out and have fun. So it's, I can't hold that one up, but my old fisherman. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. Again, if you do have any other questions, make sure to pop them in the chats. I will always go back through and read and answer them as much as I can. But that was portrait painting in an hour. Portrait painting in an hour, and with a very limited palette. So I hope you guys get a chance to play around with some of the Charmin palettes. They even have one that's intense color. I'm kind of itching to get that one next. It is like vibrant yellows and Caribbean blue, and like I think there was magenta in there. Oh, that's a very, very neat palette. That's why this was such a challenge, because it's so desaturated, and I love punchy colors. So go out there and get you guys some fun palettes to play around with, or have a friend put together one. It's really, really fun challenge to do. So that was the show. Hope you enjoyed it. And of course, make sure you join us next week. Mod is actually going to be doing a really fun, what is it? A paper cut light box. And they're going to incorporate watercolors in it as well. A shadow box, yeah. But it's very, very cool. So it incorporates watercolor, it incorporates kind of a 3-dimensionality to it, as well as a shadow box kind of feature, which is really, really cool. I've seen the example and it looks so cool. But that'll be next week. Please join us. And I believe that is wow. This is the beginning of the year. I feel like I forgot how to do this. I think that's it. So I will see you guys next time, and enjoy your evening. Bye!